Good evening and welcome to the November 2025 meeting of the Omaha Public Power District Board of Directors. Thank you all for joining us in person at the Omaha Douglas Civic Center and remotely via WebEx. I hope you and your loved ones are staying safe and healthy. With me in person today are my fellow board members, Amanda Bogner, Mike Kavanaugh, Craig Moody, and Eric Williams. Director Core, Director Howard, and Director Hudson let me know ahead of time they would be unable to attend this evening. We also have CEO Javier Fernandez, Steve Bruckner, our General Counsel with the Fraser Stryker Law Firm, and members of our board meeting support staff. OPPD's executive leadership team and subject matter experts also are participating in today's meeting in person and via WebEx. Currently, we have, I believe, about 32 people in the room and 30 attendees on WebEx, consisting of OPPD employees and members of the public. Thank you all for joining us this evening. I will now ask a member of OPPD's physical security team to provide the safety briefing for our location.
Welcome. As always, we'll start with a quick safety briefing. We have emergency exits on either side of the room. In the event of an evacuation, we would use those to head outside and then congregate at the front of the building for accountability. If there was any reason to go down and take shelter from weather, we would use the same stairwells, go down into the parking area of the building, which is the storm shelter. Thankfully, we don't have any of that to worry about tonight. If anybody needs any assistance, please let someone from OPPD know. We'll get you help as quickly as possible. We also have fire suppression, first aid, AED materials on either side of the room, and then we also will have some extra materials here shortly in the back. So if anybody needs any help, please, again, let us know. We also want to make sure that everybody's safe within the environment. So now's a good time to start preparing yourselves for winter. Unfortunately, that is coming down the pike. So make sure that your vehicles are ready and make sure that you yourself are ready. And then we also talk about psychological safety in all of our meetings, and we always want our meetings to be respectful. We want to hear healthy conflict, hear from multiple perspectives, and we want to have a trusting environment and one where we promote a culture of curiosity. And then lastly, we all deal with very important digital environments. There's a lot of scams out there, so always be careful with what you're clicking on, any links that are coming in, emails, and then also watch out for any scam types of phone calls as well. So that with that, I'll turn it back over to the board. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now let's run through our guidelines for the conduct of the meeting. This regular board meeting will follow the agenda made available to the public on OPPD.com. This meeting is being conducted in person with WebEx conferencing and is being recorded. Our board meetings have public comment periods on the agenda. Comments made by all parties during the meeting are a part of the official public record. After the introduction of action items, board members will ask clarifying questions of staff, and then I will ask for public comment. After public comment, the board will conduct its discussion of the matter and then vote. Also, before we adjourn, there will be an opportunity to comment on any other matters of district business. We will take comments in the room first and then via WebEx. For in-person attendees, if you wish to make a comment, please line up behind the microphone. Please state your name, address, and the name of any organization or person you represent. Each individual will be allotted 3 minutes per matter pending. To assist you, we will use the timer that is in the room. Ms. Lane will signal you when you have 30 seconds remaining, as well as when time is up. If you have written materials, please deliver them to Ms. Lane. For WebEx attendees, if you wish to make a comment, please send the meeting host a message using the chat feature or utilize the hand raise feature. Detailed instructions can be found on the OPPD website at the link that is shown on the screen. When I call on a member of the public to speak, please affirm that we can hear you before commencing with your comments. Please state your name, address, and the name of any organization or person that you represent. Again, each individual will be allotted 3 minutes per matter pending. And to assist you, we will use the timer on the screen and signal you when 30 seconds remain, as well as when time is up. If you have written materials, please email them to corporate secretary, all one word, corporate secretary at OPPD.com, and they will be received on our behalf. For all attendees, please direct your comments to me. I will either respond to you directly or defer a response to another board member or officer of the district. The board values and welcomes civil, respectful, clear, and concise communication from the public. During public comments, speakers should refrain from repetitious, profane, or irrelevant comments. Speakers shall refrain from polling the board as such vote is not on the agenda and is prohibited by law. I'd like to remind everyone that this is a formal board meeting. We welcome your presence and engagement, but we ask that you refrain from clapping, calling out, or interrupting the proceedings. Please allow the board to conduct its business in an orderly and respectful manner. Thank you for your cooperation. Ms. Lane, will you please take the roll call?
Here. Okay, let's start over. Director Bogner. Here. Director Kavanaugh. Director Kaur is online. Director Howard, absent. Director Hudson, absent. Director Moody.
Here.
Director Spurgeon.
Here.
Director Williams.
Here.
Notice of the time and place of this meeting was publicized by notifying the area news media, by publicizing in the Omaha World Herald and Nebraska Press Association, OPPD outlets newsletter, OPPD.com, and social media, by displaying such notice on the first level of OPPD administrative offices, and by emailing such notice to each of the district's directors on November 14, 2025. A copy of the proposed agenda for this meeting has been maintained on a current basis and is readily available for public inspection in the office of the district's corporate secretary. Additionally, a copy of the Open Meetings Act is available for inspection on OPPD.com and in this meeting room. The consent agenda action item for tonight is item 6, approval of the September 2025 financial report, October 2025 meeting minutes, and November 2025 agenda.
If there are no corrections, changes, or additions to the consent agenda items, I need a motion and a second to approve the items.
So move.
Second.
Thank you. We discussed these action items at the All Committees meeting on Tuesday, November 18th. Do any members of the public in the room have comments on these consent agenda items? If you'd like to make a comment, please come to the podium. Seeing no one, very well. Do any members of the public on WebEx have a comment? Please send a chat to the meeting host or use the hand raise feature in WebEx. Telephone users can press *3 to raise their hand. No comments there. Thank you. Very well. Please, Ms. Lane, if you would request the roll call on this item.
Bogner? Yes. Kavanaugh? Kaur is online. Howard absent. Hudson absent. Moody?
Yes.
Spurgeon?
Yes.
Williams?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Very well. We are ready now for the President's report from CEO and President Fernandez.
Okay, better? Okay, I'm going to start my president's report as I always do with a status update on our generation fleet. As you can see, the month of October, very steady expected capacity factors of our baseload generation. These are Nebraska City units 1 and 2, as well as North Omaha units 4 and 5. You can see the capacity factors on the screen. Nebraska City 1 had a 95% availability. The unit had to come offline for 1.5 days for maintenance on the substation yard. And then Nebraska City Unit 2 had an 87% availability. It had a 4-day maintenance outage to address a turbine vibration concern, but the plant is back, the unit is back online. North Omaha units 4 and 5 had 100% availability. There were no major derates or outages for the month of October, and you can see the capacity factors there at between 61% and 65%. The next one is our balancing generation. We used to call this our peaking generation, but it's no longer available just on the peak season to balance the rest of the year. You can see here pretty low capacity factors for most of the units. Cass County saw a capacity factor of 2%, 99% availability on both units. Jones Street Generation had some planned outages, planned borescope inspections, generator inspections, but it still had about a 57 or 58% availability. It had some starts. You can see these capacity factor of less than 1%. Sarpy County Generation with a capacity factor of 4%. Most of the units were available except for Unit 1, which we're working on a bearing damage, a forced outage that started on September 25. Its estimated return to online is December 15th. The other 4 units at Sarpy County Station were available, again with a capacity factor of 4%. Our brand new Turtle Creek station had Unit 1 had a 99% of availability and Unit 2 94% availability. With a capacity factor of 2%. Next month, we will add one more line to this list, and that's to talk about our brand new Standing Bear Lake station. That'll be on our next month's report. North Omaha units 1 and 2, as expected, no capacity factor because there's no gas available for those units in this time of the year, as we all know. North Omaha unit 3 had gas availability during the month of October. The winter gas outage for Unit 3 started on November 1st, so we don't expect that unit to have any capacity factor going forward until the spring. But it had, North Omaha Unit 3 had 9 successful runs for a capacity factor of 11%, which was important to have that gas available. Next, our renewable generation capacity factor for renewables, all of our renewable portfolio is 43.5%. The major contributor to that was wind at 42.2%. Just a reminder, included in the renewable portfolio is the capacity factor we get from the hydro allocation we get from the Western Area Power Administration. We also had capacity factors for both community solar and Platteview Solar going down to the between 16 and 17%. That is expected as days are getting shorter and those assets have a lower capacity factor. They will come back up later in the spring. I would like to pause on these one. We usually don't report on these. It's a much smaller generation asset, but we had the Elk City station, which, if you remember, it was a methane landfill gas station with a 6 megawatt nameplate capacity. That station ceased operations on October 6th. We are no longer generating electricity from that station, and mostly the reason for that is the site and the gas are owned by Waste Management, and that company made a decision to use that gas instead for other reasons, to liquefy it and sell it elsewhere. And so we no longer had the fuel to power those units. So that station is no longer in service. Not in an OPPD decision, but certainly our partner made that decision. Next slide. It's that time of the year already. We're going into the end of the year, but it's never too early to start talking about the Heat the Streets Run and Walk for Warmth. This will be on Saturday, March 7th at the Exarban Village, and there will also, as we have in the years past, have a virtual option for participants to be part of these. Registration opens a week from tomorrow on Friday, November 28th. You can register at heatthestreetsomaha.org. I am very pleased to share that our very own Director Bogner will be the Heat the Street co-chair along with her husband. And we also have another board member from the MUD participating. There's another event to highlight this year. Related to this event, we will have the Lights of Exarban tree lighting ceremony with both Director Bogner representing OPPD and Mark Mendenhall from MUD. This is going to be on the same day, Friday, November 28th at 6 p.m. at Stinson Park in Exarban Village. There's no cost to attend. Next slide, please. On October 14, OPPD and the Metropolitan Utilities District held the second of two co-sponsored community resource fairs at the One World in South Omaha. With 20 non-for-profit agencies and OPPD and MUD's customer care representatives on site, this one-stop fair served over 500 customers from 289 households. OPPD alone processed over 222 energy assistance applications, providing over $42,000 in aid. 90 customers enrolled in the customer assistance program, and 117 customers enrolled in the payment installment program, totaling over $74,000. Hosting events like these is a way to not only connect with our customers where they live, but also to help them thrive and bringing not only MUD and OPPD services, but many other agencies in one stop where our customer owners get access to many different services. This is not the first time we've done these. We've done many of these in other parts of our territory, in North Omaha and South Omaha, but it's just a great opportunity for our customer care teams to participate. Next slide, please. On Tuesday, November 4, over 40 employees from our underground construction group volunteer with Habitat for Humanity. You can see them here on the picture. They support, the site that they supported will eventually become Bluestem Prairie Second Edition, Phase 2, which is on 50th Newport Avenue. And a new neighborhood in North Omaha featuring approximately 40 traditional single-family homes, along with the potential for 20 townhome or duplex units. All units will be affordable, owner-occupied housing, and there will be no rentals. Habitat is currently in the planning design phase for this exciting project. This is something that brings me a lot of joy. I currently serve as the chair of the board for Habitat for Humanity, and I've served on that board for 7 years. And it's just a joy to see the collaboration that happens between all these agencies in the area. And last but certainly not least, remembering those who we've lost in the line of duty. Ed Ronca died on April 16 of 1946 while working on a 7600 voltage line in Bellevue. He was attempting to fasten his safety belt when he made contact with the line. He was 56 years old at the time and was with OPPD 26 years at the time of his death, or the company prior to OPPD. He was survived by his mother, 2 brothers, and 5 sisters. And with that, I conclude my president's report.
Thank you, Mr. Fernandez. So now we are at the point of opportunity for comment on other items of district business. And I see the lineup. Excellent.
Yes, David
Welcome.
Corbin, 1002 North 49th Street, representing the Nebraska Sierra Club. As many of you know, I've probably attended more than 90% of the board meetings since 2011, since I retired as a public health professor at UNO. I want to address some of the comments made in the committee meetings on Tuesday. You selectively cited Nebraska's Energy Future Report, and you didn't mention what they said about renewable energy and what they said about meeting net zero goals. They said, quote, coal plants, traditionally based load workhorses of the U.S. power systems, have been retiring, affected by increasing federal environmental strictures, increasing age and related maintenance, end quote. In addition, you did not cite the state climate action plan or the Omaha climate action plan. As I mentioned in my comments at the all committees meeting, your assessment of the effects of the burning of coal on the public's health was grossly inadequate. To think that somehow the North Omaha plant is so much safer than others, despite being the largest single source polluter in the area, is to undermine OPPD's credibility. The scientific literature overwhelmingly affirms that the burning of coal is associated with increased asthma, cancer, and heart disease. Your presentation on Tuesday used a comparison to a purple air monitor in Florence, which ironically they bought. And when we had meetings with the ad hoc meeting, had meetings with North Omaha, OPPD said, yes, we'll be happy to help fund air monitors in North Omaha, since we're not going to close the plant in 2023. You did not do that. You promised that you would have extending for North Omaha energy efficiency, renewable energy. That was greatly undermined. At a community meeting with North Omaha Ad Hoc Group, as I said, these promises were made. These are largely unrealized. The broken promises, along with your promises to close the coal plant in 23 and again in 2026, undermine OPPD's credibility. This time, keep your promise. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment.
David Begley, 4611 South 96th Street. Earlier this month, or last month, I should say, billionaire Bill Gates wrote on his personal blog, while climate change was serious, it was not civilization ending. He then goes on to state that he thinks that the country should work towards improving human welfare. And to my mind, that's low rates and reliable power. Now, it took Mr. Gates a lot of courage to do that, to admit that he was wrong. And I can guarantee you that he's getting millions of federal income tax credits on his own personal 1040, but he went out and did this. And he didn't say it, but climate change is or I should say, catastrophic man-made global warming is a giant scam. Now, I listened to about 2 hours of your meeting on Tuesday, and I heard Javier, and he said, I'm frustrated. We cannot get these solar and wind projects approved in Nebraska. Well, those are the facts on the ground. And I can tell you from personal experience and representing these rural counties and rural residents, they do not want solar and wind. And you've got to face up to the fact, be like Bill Gates, say, hey, we're gonna abandon this fantasy of net zero. It's not working because the chickens are coming home to roost. And I listened to your very detailed presentation from your vice president saying we're going to run out of power. And you may recall, if you were listening, over many meetings I've attended, I've told you the Center for the American Experiment in Minneapolis modeled net zero in Minnesota and Wisconsin, and showed blackouts in January. You cannot have blackouts in January or February here in Nebraska. Finally, I was at the Nebraska Wind and Solar Conference this month, and I've got lapel pins to prove it. And I've never seen so much arrogance and entitlement in my life. There were 350 people feeding at the trough of OPPD and MPPD and capturing all that profit, which George Norris never intended. They're allowed to create generation capacity, and they're all making money off of it. And the shocker to me was Alan Klaus
30
Anderson,
seconds.
partner at Posanelli, reportedly making $3 million a year. And he said, if you oppose wind and solar, you're a communist. And I'm going to go on the record and say I'm not now a member of the Communist Party, and I've never been a member of the Communist Party. The point of this is there are very good reasons to be opposed to solar and wind. Economically inefficient, taking productive real estate that makes food into inefficient production of electricity, and the aesthetics. So you just need, in my opinion, dump your SP7. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comment.
Hello, April Thompson, 5863 South 104th Avenue, Omaha. I'm here today because delaying the fuel switch in the North Omaha station directly affects the health and well-being of people in our community, especially anyone living with asthma or other respiratory conditions. On Wednesday, I submitted a longer written comment to my district board member, Director Kavanaugh, outlining the fiscal and broader implications of the delay. Since OPPD has already invested over $17 million and completed most of the required steps, walking away now would waste ratepayers' dollars and violate Nebraska's least cost planning requirements. Today, I want to share a personal perspective. As most people are aware, coal-fired plants emit harmful pollutants with well-documented links to asthma and other respiratory illnesses, with findings that are echoed by the University of Nebraska's Medical Center, which reported elevated asthma rates in neighborhoods near the plants. 2 peer-reviewed Douglas County studies also share clear associations between these pollutants and spikes in pediatric asthma emergency and hospitalization. For me, this isn't abstract. As a child with severe asthma, I spent too much time in hospitals and missed a lot of school and created medical expenses my family struggled with. All of this takes a toll because asthma isn't just a diagnosis, it's a restriction on the life you live. And my experience isn't unique, but I am fortunate to be here. I lost a classmate to an asthma attack in 7th grade. And years later, when I was teaching, a 4th grader died from an attack she suffered at a sleepover. I will never forget those losses. They remind me that asthma can take a child's life in minutes, and it also makes me think about the anxiety that comes when someone suddenly can't breathe to catch their breath. No child should ever face that, and no family should ever have to endure that loss. So when we talk about emissions or pausing a fuel switch, we're not discussing distant ideals. We're talking about pollutions that makes asthma worse, pollutions that sends kids to the hospital, strains families, and sometimes end lives. As board members, you are facing a decision that carries real and lasting consequences for
30 seconds.
completing the community. Completing the fuel switch won't fix everything, but it will remove emissions known to harm public health. And doing so could save a life and spare a family from stress, anxiety, and financial hardship that comes from severe asthma. The choice you make now will affect the well-being of families across the community long into the future. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment.
Hi, excuse me. My name is Joe Gitter, 1146 Mayberry Plaza. I own a small business in downtown Omaha, and I have nearly 40 years of experience in the energy industry. Much of that experience was related to risk assessment, including performing risk assessments, teaching risk management at MIT, and serving as director of risk assessment at the Nuclear Regulatory Commission for 7 years. I was also one of those kids from North Omaha who experienced severe asthma. Last night, I had a chance to go through the slide package that was presented to the board on Tuesday, entitled Strategic Risk North Omaha Recommendation. As someone who devoted a career to risk assessment, I found that aspects of the presentation were far from convincing, and in some places downright troubling. In the risk assessment world, there's something called the Texas sharpshooter fallacy. And the Texas sharpshooter fallacy describes a situation where someone shoots holes in the side of a barn and then decides to draw a circle around the holes that are clustered together to draw inferences from randomness. On its surface, the OPPD strategic risk management or risk assessment has the appearance of an analysis that justifies a decision that has already been made rather than a rigorous strategic risk assessment. And I'm going to briefly explain to you why I think that is. And I have lots of reasons, but I'm going to cover a few of them. First off, the study suggests that North Omaha Station is somehow necessary to prevent blackouts, as evidenced by an increase in voltage alarms. However, as an engineer, I can tell you there's a lot of reasons why you can get low voltage alarms, and some of those relate to equipment failures, faulty automatic voltage regulators, poor maintenance, a number of reasons. And it's not clear to me that that's a legitimate concern. But the assessment would have us believe that these are all great grid-related stability issues. And let's put things in perspective. The Southwest Power Pool has a capacity of approximately 66,000 megawatts. The two coal plants we're talking about are 350 megawatts. That's less than half of 1% of the grid capacity. When OPPD shut down the Fort Calhoun nuclear power plant, the rationale was that they would be able to be more of a purchaser of power and less of a generator. And I'm wondering how that philosophy plays into this decision. I was also concerned about the independence of the human health and
30
ecological
seconds.
risk assessment. I'm going to go ahead and jump to my next point here. I had some serious issues with that because it seemed like there was a lot of circular logic there. But I want to address one more topic, and that's the topic of brain drain. I directed a documentary film called Car-Centric earlier this year. The documentary addresses the fact that Omaha is one of the most car-centric cities in America, and in fact, we rank 99 out of 100 in U.S. Climate Transportation Index. But one of the major observations I made when making this film is that the young people of Omaha, the bright minds that we're losing from brain drain,
And that's time.
they value the environment. And I think making this decision is going to force people to want to leave the area even more.
Thank you for your comment.
John Pollock, 1412 North 35th Street, Omaha. I did see the Tuesday committee meeting presentation, and I am one of the people that favors keeping the promise, closing the coal plants in North Omaha. I wanted to focus my attention on the issue of winter reliability, since that was one of the main concerns brought up. And I really see it as two related problems. One is the SPP requirement that you have a certain amount of rated generating capacity over the minimum. And I understand that. However, I think there's a related problem in physical reality, and that is that the coal plant being located on the river is obviously subject to low flow conditions during severe cold. You've already had that. That was a direct impact. And not only is the North Omaha plant like that, but there are generating plants up and down the river that are like that. And so that's a correlated event, and it impacts the reliability of the entire system in the winter because you've got lots of places that have the same issues. Obviously, it's going to vary with individual plants, and you have to deal with yours. However, SPP obviously is capable of changing the rules. At any point, they could say, well, we've figured out a different way to refine our reliability problem, and we're just going to say that all the plants on the river are subject to low flow, and we can't give them the same rating that we were because they're a difficulty for the whole system. You don't have a solution to that by keeping the coal plant open. It's time to be thinking about Plan B for that sort of thing, which is demand reduction, storage,
30 seconds.
other options. So that is really my main point. As far as the Thanksgiving weather, it's okay going into the holiday. There's some rain down south. I don't see any big travel problems. However, we're going to have a bump down in temperatures starting next Wednesday. We're going to be getting periodic cold outbreaks. And toward the end of the weekend, Sunday and early the following week, there is the possibility of a significant snowstorm. So be watching for that. The models aren't really tipping the hand yet, but we can see the possibility. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment.
Can you show this on the overhead? Vern Carlson, 800 Buckboard Boulevard, Papillion. Everybody in the room might want to take a look at the stats here. The reason I'm here is because I was watching the news one night and I saw that Attorney General Hilgers is suing OPPD. And I was stunned by that and I couldn't figure out why he would do that. I've tried to call the Attorney General's office before and basically get ignored, so I just did my own research. And I ended up on Highway 50 at the Meta and Google data centers. And I was shocked. I was in network engineering for over 40 years, so I know how data centers work. Those are enormous 1 mile squared data centers. And I guess they're planning to expand. And I started wondering about things like what kinds of tax breaks do they get? Do they subsidize you guys and actually build power? And one of the things I've talked to some people that do wind, solar, I know that solar is the least expensive, but I don't know what the numbers are, but I think to do solar to power these data centers might require like 14,000 acres of solar panels or some extreme number like that. To do wind might be like 18,000, which is just staggering numbers to power these plants. And I'm starting to become aware of all of the data centers, and I know from a networking perspective that this is an ideal area for data centers. But the idea that they're going to suck millions of gallons of water out of our water resources because they use evaporative cooling, they're going to, I don't even have any idea how much power they use, but I'm sure it's staggering. I don't know how you're going to deal with these people. I know that they're monopolies. They're going to have enormous legal teams, enormous unlimited resources for lobbying our governments. So now that they're here, to get them out, I don't know how that's even possible. So I'm guessing that that's who's manipulating you as far as not allowing you to upgrade to coal. Maybe I'm wrong about that. I hope so. But finally, I did have a coworker that lived up in North Omaha. He died from lung cancer. And then you can kind of see here also the
30 seconds.
statistics that I've got shown here, but please consider dumping coal and going to solar. Solar is the least cost from what I hear. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Hi, I'm Sandy Lair. I live at 9737 Brentwood Road, Omaha, 68114. And I'm here representing the over 800 members of the Omaha chapter of Citizens Climate Lobby. First, I want to thank you all, management and board, for significant emissions reductions as compared to the 2013 benchmark. This, I know, is due to a lot of diligence on your part and hard work. So thank you for that. Additionally, I note that as incorporated in Strategic Directive 7, you are supposed to operate in an environmentally responsible manner and work to ensure the health and public safety of all the communities you serve. By year-end 2027, SD7 states that OPPD will achieve an approximate 3.5 million ton annual reduction in CO2 emissions at the North Omaha station relative to OPPD's 2013 benchmark. This was just last year that SD7 was updated, moving towards the goal of achieving net zero carbon production by 2050. By keeping North Omaha open on an ongoing basis with its coal plants, I do not see how OPPD will adhere to its own strategic directive. Most decarbonization plans suggest that greenhouse gas emissions need to be cut by 50% by 2030 and drop to net zero by 2050. The time to act is now, and we all have an important role to play. OPPD has the opportunity to lead for all your employees, customer owners, in our community by continuing to reduce emissions. So please lead our community by improving our air that we all breathe. Reject this resolution and continue down the emissions reduction pathway that you have been following. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment.
Hello, I am Jennifer Glazer. I live at 105 South 93rd Avenue, and I am disappointed and concerned that OPPD is considering breaking its promise to stop burning coal in North Omaha. I love my city and my community. I frequently walk in my neighborhood. I take hikes in Neil Woods. And when I became aware of the dirty air that is in our community, I at least had some peace knowing that the plan was to close the coal plant soon. I am disheartened that OPPD appears to be succumbing to energy pressure, mainly due to the data centers, and this is taking priority over the customer owner's health. According to the Nebraska Power Association, we're supposed to benefit from affordable energy, better service, and a utility that cares about the overall well-being of our community. That includes a recognition to safeguard the environment. So please vote no on this resolution to burn coal indefinitely.
Thank you for your comment.
Vice Chair Spurgeon, CEO Fernandez, Board Management. My name is Kay Karn at 143 White Deer Lane. Let's make this clear for the public. This is a choice between converting North Omaha to gas as committed and meeting the speed of energy delivery the data centers desire. This decision will be your legacy, how Omaha will remember you when you are gone, your mark on our world. First, let's talk health. To be honest, I didn't understand the seriousness of asthma until I heard Ella Roberta's story. Put yourself in her mother's shoes. Have you ever had to resuscitate your own child or a human being you care about deeply? I learned from Ella's mother that when people flatline, the last thing that goes is their hearing. Her mother had to be calm as she resuscitated her baby girl more than 28 times. For her mother's words were the last thing Ella would hear as she would go blue. She didn't want to exacerbate her child's distress. Ella was the first person on our planet to have air pollution designated on her death certificate as a cause of death. As you heard earlier, as the woman spoke about her experience as a child and many others in our community who haven't spoken today, asthma is a serious health issue and can be fatal. Omaha is ranked in the top 20 worst cities to live in for asthma by the Asthma and Allergy Foundation of America. No matter what Cliff Fleener's study says on this coal plant, we know coal plants are bad for our air, and it's a simple fact. How many more children will become sick, go to our hospitals, and die in our community? I appreciate that the easier choice for OPPD management is to keep the coal plant running, and I appreciate that our electric utility system is complex and that these choices are complex. But we're in Nebraska and we are unique and we have public power. And the public obviously wants the coal plant in North Omaha to cease burning coal. OPPD's board made a promise to their ratepayer owner voters a decade ago, long before the largest data centers started wooing OPPD. The Meta data center built just south of Springfield, Nebraska, uses the same amount of power 400,000 homes use, according to Business Insider.
30 seconds.
The entire Omaha metro has just over 400,000 homes. Check out the documentary Exposing the Dark Side of America's AI Data Centers Explosion on YouTube. I've lived a few miles from this coal plant for 30 years of my life. OPPD board, I believe that you can put the people first, that you can put human health first, and that you can reduce our weather disrupting emissions and put those things before the data centers. Let the data centers wait and reject this resolution and ask management to provide another proposal. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Hello, my name is Crystal Edwards. I live at 1148 South 93rd Avenue. And I took my time this afternoon to come down here to ask you to keep your promise to Omaha. We deserve clean air. It is our birthright to breathe clean air and to see the stars. The data is there. The information is there. We know how bad burning coal is for us. But this isn't about the data. It's about courage. The courage you need to stand up against elite entities that would leave us all without the ability to breathe. And I will just end on the note that I too have children who miss an incredible amount of school because of back-to-back and back-to-back respiratory infections. And I lose a lot of time at work because of it. It is untenable. And I ask you to have courage, and think about your legacy. Courage begets courage.
Thank you for your comment.
All right, hi. My name is Isabella Jaska. I go by Issa. I live at 3214 Campbell Court, and I am just a high schooler at Bellevue East High School. So I know right now you're probably thinking, oh my gosh, it's an average middle class white girl here to talk about the climate, and you're gonna fall asleep. I'm actually not. I was considering it, but so I would like to talk about something that's very near and dear to my heart. I'm in this program called the UNMC High School Alliance. We take a lot of classes over medicine, and this one class I took, pathology, is very closely related to, like, this is how we study what we're talking about, the effects of these coal power plants. So asthma, cancer, fertility rates, those are going down, and et cetera, et cetera. So we're all saying the same thing here. We're saying asthma, we're saying cancer, we're saying all of this, but we're not, I'm here to explain the science, what's going on. All right, so the actual air from the power plants is corrosive to human tissue. And the reason why for that is because it has a lot of known acids, like, for example, what did I put down? Sulfur dioxide. Sulfur dioxide reacts with water. And what are humans made of mostly? 75% water. Whenever it reacts with that, it turns into sulfuric acid, which causes direct chemical burns in your lungs. Have you ever drank an acid? Have you gotten an acid burn? That's bad. Now imagine it in your lungs. That's like 10 times worse. So yeah, that's one terrible thing, and obviously you can assume it causes lung issues. There's the whole thing with particulate matter. So obviously all of the gases, they have to go somewhere in the air. And that particulate matter is going into the air, the same air that we breathe. And this tiny little particles, they go inside of our lungs. And a lot of people, there's this common misconception that the lungs are like these balloons and they deflate and inflate. But lungs are actually more like sponges. We need a lot of surface area so that the oxygen can be absorbed into the bloodstream. If it was just like balloons, I'll try to explain this easier. It's a lot of like lining, but there's not a lot of inside, so it would take a lot less air in. But
30
by making it
seconds.
porous, it is able to absorb more air. And so it's very tiny holes. These particulate matter gets stuck in these holes and it blocks airflow. So what does the body do? The body undergoes apoptosis, programmed cell death. It kills the cells inside of your lungs so that the particulate matter can go through. Now you have less surface area in your lungs. You're way less able to catch your breath. This is why we have problems with asthma, breathing, chronic bronchitis, all of this. And so it's quite literally killing us. And at the end of the day, are we going to choose a billionaire's pockets, or are we going to choose our people? If you vote on it, it's our blood on your hands. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Good evening, and thank you to the board for the opportunity to speak to you this evening. My name is Jonathan Pates. I'm at 17226 Williams Circle, Omaha, Nebraska. At the October 16th board meeting, a public comment was made against SD7. I respect the rights of others, individuals, to state their opinion, but I'd like to outline a few facts. At that meeting, an individual said that they were mystified by the fact if the Omaha station is such a health risk to the residents of North Omaha, why aren't the residents of Nebraska City complaining about whatever health risks the Nebraska City station is generating? The information I'm going to provide on power generation load emissions data are available from an EPA website, which I will submit in my written submitted comments. First fact, the Nebraska City station is located 6 miles from Nebraska City. Omaha station is within the city limits of Omaha. Second fact, the plant-specific distance from an emission source is defined as the maximum concentration radius. The radius is defined for each power plant by averaging the distances to the 10 highest concentrations around a source. EPA references the number of residents within the plant-specific buffer for each permitted site. For Nebraska City, There are 59 residents that live within 2.8 miles of the station. That doesn't even reach the city of Nebraska City. Omaha, there are approximately 3,300 residents within the 0.8-mile buffer radius. Third fact, despite the fact that the Nebraska City station is twice as large in terms of megawatt production than the Omaha station, when you measure the annual emissions in pounds emitted per megawatt hour of energy produced instead of just tons emitted, annual emission rates from 2015 to 2024 in pounds per megawatt hour are higher at the Omaha station than Nebraska City. Sulfur dioxide emissions are 40 to 90% higher than Nebraska City. Nitrogen oxide, 75 to 100. Carbon dioxide, 1 to 12% higher. During this period, the gross load megawatt hour generation at North Omaha was 90 to 135% lower than Nebraska City. I have not reviewed the permits for each station, but I suspect that the North Omaha station has a higher permit emission than Nebraska City. Older fired power plants typically have
30
less
seconds.
stringent emissions standards than newer stations. So even though the North Omaha meets air quality permit standards that is emitting less than half allowed by their permit, the emissions in pounds per megawatt hour basis are greater and potentially impact more residents than Nebraska City. I am in favor of eliminating coal from the Omaha station, but if OPPD votes to extend the operation of the coal units, I would appreciate OPPD perform a study to determine how best to reduce the emissions load from the Omaha station to be compatible with the Nebraska City station. At the very least, it should be our obligation to put North Omaha residents on par with the residents around North Nebraska City Station. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you for your comments.
Good evening, Board. I'm Jane O'Connor. I reside at 5412 Charles Street, Omaha, zip code 68132. This is my first board meeting, and I thank you for allowing me to speak. I am a retired registered nurse. I am also a parishioner of Sacred Heart Church in Northeast Omaha, and I am an active community member. When the State Attorney General Hilgers filed his lawsuit against OPPD, and stating that there were no health risks nor air quality issues within our community, I was compelled to write to AG Hilgers, which I have yet to hear from him. I have also wrote to the Omaha World Herald Public Pulse related to the misinformation by our Attorney General. I am only going to read a brief portion of the letter that I will submit to the board. I want to take this opportunity to inform everyone that there are multiple sources that I identify health implications related to coal burning. According to the 2024 Community Health Needs Assessment, which was conducted by Douglas County Health Center, as well as, not center, but Douglas County Health and all of its partners, 12.5% of metro adults have asthma, which also now includes me. While 18.2% of Northeast Omaha adults have asthma, area trends have increased by 4.5 in the past 9 years. The child and adolescent health assessment done by the same Douglas County Health Partners showed that while our metro area rate is lower than the national benchmark of 18.4%, Northeast Omaha's rates are 23.4%. Higher rates of premature death, heart attacks, and strokes. Premature deaths are also associated with ozone smog and particle pollution.
30 seconds.
The American Lung Association's 26th annual State of the Air report also assessed ozone and particle pollution across the U.S. in the Omaha areas are the ground level ozone pollution ranked 29th worst out of 228 with 8.2 unhealthy days, giving us a grade of F. Our particle pollution ranked 104th out of 223. Oh, I just gave you that, which was a grade of C. Our year-round particle pollution ranked 89th. I want to conclude by bringing attention to Pope Leo's words. We're the most vulnerable of our brothers and sisters, are the first to suffer the devastating effects of climate change, deforestation, and pollution. Care for our creation becomes an expression of our faith and our humanity. Please live up to your commitment to closing the coal-fired units. And I want to say I did put solar panels on my home, and I have paid very little to OPPD over
And
the
that's time.
last handful of years. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Hey y'all, my name is Rob Dyer. I live 3308 North 53rd Street, Omaha, Nebraska, 68104. You all probably recognize me from the last time I was here. And genuinely, why are we having this conversation again? I think that you have heard from more than enough of the people you're supposed to be representing asking for this plant to get closed. Mr. Kavanaugh has been on his phone the entire time I was in line. So, like, what are we doing? I really don't get it. If you are for the people, why are you not listening to us and representing us? There has to be a certain point where you're humans in this community too. Like, genuinely, what are we doing?
Thank you for your comment.
Hi there. I'm Dr. Grace Kelly. I live at 3308 North 53rd in Omaha here. And when I first came to speak at meetings here, I was a little naive. I thought because we do have a publicly owned power district that we would be prioritized as customer owners. But I do think it's a little disingenuous to say that we are the customer owners because as a gentleman pointed out earlier, it seems to really be that your true customer owners are subsidized large companies that are increasing the power demand to an extreme extent. While our rates are raised, we don't know how much Meta and Google are paying. I assume it's lower than what we pay. And I think that it's also clearly endangering our communities. It's clearly causing higher asthma rates, clearly causing all of these health impacts. So I just implore you to think about the long-term impacts of keeping a coal plant open, of using natural gas. Honestly, I don't think that's a good situation either, but I do implore you to think about our long-term impacts rather than a quick profit. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment.
Hi, my name is Cole Whitrock. I'm here representing myself of my neighborhood, 32nd and Hamilton Street, and also Local 22. Basically, I just wanted to mention, I wanted to take this at a different angle and kind of look at more of a financial benefit of this. Ultimately, the utility plant has already started converting back in 2014. And I see that it's kind of been an idea of converting this plant over a decade. And I think, continuing that idea is definitely beneficial, especially since it's going to most likely save millions of dollars. We've seen evidence of that before. Calgary plant in Canada did it about 15 years ago. It saved over $381 million over that 20-year span. Another thing is it's happening everywhere. We have 103 U.S. coal plants already been converted to natural gas, and they've also seen economical benefit of it. And over time, these plants will need serviced. So servicing a coal plant is going to become relatively more difficult over the next decade or so unless we close the plant. So if you look at this, retrospectively, I think changing it over to natural gas and making sure that it continues a better future for North Omaha's plant and also the people around it would be very beneficial. And also, last thing I want to note is don't let Mike Hilger and these corporations scare you from a good business deal. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment.
Good evening. My name is Dan DeLeo. My address is 5817 South 176th Street, and I'm a member of Sacred Heart Catholic Church in North Omaha. My father was the tax director at Ameren, a private utility market member of the Southwest Power Pool. So I genuinely believe utility staff are well-intentioned, and I truly know how hard they work to navigate challenges like reserve quotas, voltage alarms, and inflation. But unlike Ameren, OPPD is a public utility that's supposed to implement directives from elected board members. 3 years ago, the board directed OPPD to fulfill its 2014 promise to retire and convert the North Omaha station units. It is not the core responsibility of OPPD to shift priorities from implementing board directives to publicly challenging them, much less to lobby that directors go back on them. But that's what happened Tuesday, when the board essentially heard a 3-hour lobby pitch for coal that narrowly suggested there is no alternative, and culminated with a resolution to not just delay coal transition in North Omaha for a second time, but to continue burning it indefinitely. Naming the situation isn't meant to pit directors against staff. It's meant to apply the wisdom that honestly naming tension is essential to conflict resolution. In 3 minutes, it's hard to address 3 hours of advocacy, especially when it referred to an unpublished health study that seems to conflict with precedent research and was written by an industry organization with an engineering firm tied to the fossil fuel industry. So as a customer owner, I want to focus on justice and trust. The board policies prioritize, quote, the just treatment and meaningful involvement of all people, end quote. But justice delayed is justice denied. And OPPD has already delayed its 2014 transition in justice to the North Omaha community. So to uphold your priority commitment to justice, I and so many others support the board in keeping its promise to take coal out of North Omaha. Many constituents supported directors in past elections because we trusted your promises to lead the clean energy transition that this resolution indefinitely threatens. We support you now in keeping those promises and urge you to do so. This is especially true because passage of the resolution suggests that we cannot trust OPPD's net zero promise moving forward. Resolution passage also suggests that outside interests take priority over
30
constituents.
seconds.
OPPD recruited data centers with promises of cheap energy to big tech, but no commensurate clean energy plan. This resolution would keep OPPD's promises to corporations by breaking promises to constituents. Amongst these emerging tensions, I and so many others support the board and ask you to keep your promise to take coal out of North Omaha. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Good afternoon. I'm T. Michael Williams, pastor at Mount Moriah Baptist Church, 2602 North 24th Street, and I live at 4815 North 56th Street. Don't have a lot of technical things to say to you, but moral. I believe, and I agree with what's been said, when David mentioned the meeting that we had in North Omaha, I believe promises were made. And I trusted you, and I would say to the board, do not go back on the promise. People in North Omaha have suffered enough in numbers of ways, and we do not need to continue having to breathe coal-fired air. We implore you to keep the promise and do what's right. I mean, it's just right to keep your promise and close that facility. I know there are a lot of technical issues and so forth, but we need to close the plant and keep our word. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment.
Roger Carroll, 417 North 38th Street, Jocelyn Castle neighborhood. I have a little presentation that I prepared. It talks about low voltage. That's been covered. It talks about the sudden concern for low voltage, which apparently has been around for years. That's been covered. I do have a couple of pieces, one from from Pope Benedict, when making use of natural resources, coal, we should be concerned for their protection of the resource and the cost entailed. There is a cost. We've heard it over and over. The lives of people who suffer from asthma are just as important as corporate profits. I think you all know that. I'm not here to say that you don't. I'm just here to remind you that those lives are important. The other bit is that we really need to have this public corporation, which it is. It's one of, it may be the only one, or Nebraska may have the only public power in the country. And I think it's an example to the rest of the nation. And we need this board to lead. The engineers can engineer, they do that. That's what they get paid for, and they're very good at it. We need this board to lead and to move the coal away from the North Omaha plant. We need OPPD to remember its promise to the community and to act on that promise. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comment.
Hello, my name is Stephen Dickerson, 5214 Cass Street. I am representing the Students for Sustainability. We are a group of high schoolers advocating for environmental action. I don't believe we've ever testified in front of OPPD, but we've been engaged with these meetings, so I've been here before. I just wanted to kind of point out, I'm a member of OPPD Community Connects, so I see all the updates online. I appreciate that. I saw the post from the other day about the North Omaha station, and this is what it says. North Omaha station provides critical local support to the grid. Why extending NOS is being considered, and the first point is reliability first. You guys named that. Converting this too soon risks rolling blackouts, outages, and energy rationing. My question is, we've consistently seen this kind of be disputed. And I'm not saying that reliability isn't an issue. I mean, obviously you guys are facing a tremendous challenge at the moment, but it's my understanding that why would you make a promise to convert it if it was not reliable to begin with? And I also see that there's lots of issues with how the plant operates currently. I mean, somebody has mentioned the river. I've heard of that too. Obviously you have difficulties during the winter time. So to me, it doesn't seem like that's super reliable to begin with. So I'm just confused why that is the first point. The next thing is affordable power. I could understand how you guys are facing an affordability crisis. Of course, everything is going up, and so are rates. My question is, why wouldn't closing this or converting this plant, especially when a lot of the work has already been done, to my understanding, how isn't that not saving OPPD money? And how is, kind of exploring, like, in what ways is that not saving money? The next one is community well-being, talking about health. This one is a little funny to me because I did do my own research and did find out that you guys have a health study that was commissioned by engineering firms, which they are not public health officials. Not saying that anything in the report is wrong, but I would trust doctors on that more than I would trust engineers. They're all good in their own right, but and then the last point is strength for growth.
30
And
seconds.
my question is, strength for growth. Well, we've already seen a lot of growth. I know OPPD is not actively recruiting data centers. They're not recruiting them. You're not able to do that. But how are you going to ensure to the community that you're going to be able to balance residential power with power from these data centers, these large data centers that are, somebody said 400,000 homes. So, I mean, that's a lot of power. How are you going to balance that? So, thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
My name is Claire Bossman. I'm a resident in Bellevue, Nebraska at 9701 South 20th Street. My family are OPPD customers, and I'm here today to express my concern about the North Omaha coal power plant. I understand that OPPD is facing increased energy demand, which makes it difficult to phase out any power production services. However, I believe that the dangers of the North Omaha coal power plant are too great to allow it to continue. The plant is incredibly harmful to the health of North Omaha residents, causing increased asthma rates, cancer, and even deaths, as many people before me have mentioned. Continuing to allow toxic fumes to permeate the air in North Omaha is unethical and hazardous. Additionally, it puts health and safety last. Is this the message that OPD wants to send when it has spent decades trying to provide for safe and reliable power for our city? Keeping the coal plant open contradicts OPD and Omaha's values of inclusion, safety, and care for community. Furthermore, I'm a senior in high school, and as I'm thinking about where I want to go to school and start my life on my own, I'm thinking about what places value the health of its citizens and the planet. I know that many people like me do not want to live somewhere that does not value our voices and our futures. I urge you to listen to your customers and young people. It is time to shut down the North Omaha coal plant and keep your promise. Let's prioritize the health of North Omaha residents and the environment by phasing out this dangerous energy source. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
I'm Maylee Mason, 9632 North 34th Street. I live in the Florence area. I am directly affected by the plant. I would like to know how many people here on the board or working for OPPD live in the area. Okay, we have heard from others about the extraordinarily high asthma death rate in this area, the respiratory factors that we have to deal with. We have been working with Javier and other OPPD officials for the past 2 years. They have continuously led us to believe that the coal plant would be retired. I believe that this Omaha station has a direct impact on our health in the Florence, Miller Park, Minnelusa, and North Omaha area. I ask you to keep your promise to close it down. I also ask, we don't have information on the Turtle Creek or Standing Bear stations. Why are you making a decision on this now when you don't even know what their capabilities are? So let us close down the coal, please. Keep your promise. And we in North Omaha are not expendable.
Thank you for your comment.
Hi, Liz Veazey. I'm at 912 North 49th Street in Omaha, and I've worked in energy policy for 20 years. I'm here to also encourage the board to keep their promise and end coal generation in North Omaha by 2027, as stated in the existing board resolution. I'm really frustrated that OPPD staff are proposing to keep burning coal. They're not proposing any other options, and they're forcing a vote with only 1 month's notice yet again. OPPD has been working towards this closure for more than 10 years, since the 2014 resolution. My understanding is that at least $17 million have been spent on preparing for the closure. I just want to reiterate that no other options have been provided. So I think if there are needs for additional capacity, for voltage control, for other things, then we should be having a conversation about different options that could best address those needs. So one option is distributed energy resources, or DERs, like rooftop solar, smart thermostats, energy storage, smart appliances. We know Australia has done such a good job supporting DERs that they now have 3, and rooftop solar in particular, they have 3 free hours of electricity in the afternoon. So there's huge potential to quickly expand these resources and benefit customer owners. There have been some efforts by OPPD to support DERs, including some support rooftop solar, heat pumps, smart thermostats, and EVs. But OPPD still has no managed charging for electric vehicles, no managing of electric water heaters, no program encouraging distributed storage, no aggregation of distributed energy resources to reduce peak load beyond the smart thermostat AC program. So I would say OPPD has a start, but we really need to see a significant increase in these programs that help customer owners, that increase resiliency and reduce peak load at lower cost and with fewer negative impacts on our community. We must invest significantly in these solutions before we consider extending or building new fossil fuel plants. So OPPD could manage distributed storage, ideally powered with local rooftop solar in homes and businesses in North Omaha to help address resiliency, peak load reduction, and voltage issues, for example. So keep your promise and end coal burning in North Omaha. Thanks.
Thank you for your comment.
Good evening. My name is Adam Sundberg, 3425 California Street. The recent OPPD draft recommendation to modify Resolution 6518 to indefinitely extend the North Omaha Station's reliance upon coal is the wrong decision for Omaha's energy future. You've already heard many reasons to resist it, and today I'm going to be speaking on grounds of environmental justice. This aligns with OPPD's stated commitment in SD7 to strive towards environmental justice in all district decisions that may impact human health and the environment. This week's strategic risk presentation on the need to maintain coal burning largely discounts health and environmental risks stemming from the North Omaha Station. And it does this in two ways. In one move, it compares cancer risk from a coal plant to the risk of climbing ladders, among other things. This is a rhetorical strategy, not a comparison. Its other strategy is more familiar, but just as problematic. It relies upon threshold levels. Reliance upon thresholds presumes that a safe level of environmental toxins actually exists. In fact, for numerous toxins that permeate our communities, there is no safe level. Several subdivisions are in the lead Superfund site, and we often hear that there is no safe level of lead exposure, but this is also the case with fine particulate matter produced by coal plants. A recent meta-analysis of over 100 peer-reviewed studies on the subject concluded that fine particulate matter was associated with significantly increased risks of all causes of mortality, including at levels below the EPA threshold. A parallel body of scholarship has demonstrated that the most at-risk populations are stratified by class and race. Decades of research indicate the reasons are quite clear, and they speak to yet another problem with over-reliance upon thresholds. They do not account for cumulative impacts from multiple sources of toxins. Simply put, some communities are far more exposed than others, not just from one source of pollution, but many. Multiple toxins and other stressors act synergistically to affect health on an individual and community level. The strategic risk assessment makes no attempt to differentiate between affected communities in Omaha. It assumes that everyone across the metro enjoys the same baseline of environmental quality and that we are exposed to toxins one at a time. Both assumptions are false. There are several publicly available tools you can use to analyze actual risk filtered through environmental justice indices, and indeed, the communities around the North Omaha Station are disproportionately exposed. I understand the appeal and the temptation to rely on thresholds from the perspective of policymaking. But please don't conflate compliance with EPA threshold levels with safety.
30 seconds.
They're not the same thing. The fact that SD7 includes an environmental justice clause is evidence that the board listens, and I'm grateful for that. Please acknowledge the wishes of this and many other customer owners who want you to reject this resolution. Please keep your promise to remove the coal from North Omaha. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Hello, my name is Annette Silence. I live at 2851 Iowa Street in the Florence neighborhood. And I just came to share information with you all regarding the health of myself and my children. I have a son who's 29 years old. When he was born here in Omaha, North Omaha, he suffered from chronic bronchitis, which caused us a lot of hospital visits and him having to sleep upward in car seats. We moved away to Florida for quite some time and all of his breathing issues went away. We moved back here 20 years ago and they came back quickly. That same child was diagnosed with asthma and suffered greatly from it throughout the years. We moved back here to North Omaha. It didn't stop there. I also was diagnosed with asthma in my 30s, 3 years after moving back here to Omaha. I've never had asthma a day in my life until I moved back here. I was diagnosed while I was pregnant with my daughter. She ended up being born with asthma also. Horrible respiratory issues right now to this day. She's 16. It's so scary when you want your children to participate in sports. I've witnessed my daughter collapse on the track field because of asthma. I've witnessed my son have the same effect during sports events where I've had to run to get his inhaler. I actually ended up having an asthma attack. One incident when I ran to get the inhaler for him, I had an asthma attack also. My family has been affected greatly. I have a 6-year-old cousin who passed away from asthma. All of us live in North Omaha. I have aunts that have died from cancer. I have a cousin right now who literally just had half of her lung removed from lung cancer. All of us live in North Omaha. So for one family to be affected this much, I don't think it's coincidental. And I think it's very important that you all hold up to your promise. Time does not wait on anyone, and we don't have time for an extension. It can be a matter of life or death in our community.
Thank you for your comments.
Good evening, Terrell McKinney, 5319 North 30th Street. I am Land Justice Director with Bold Alliance, and I am here in discuss of the staff's recommendation of this draft resolution to modify Resolution 6518. You say in that you have a commitment to environmental sensitive power, but you want to delay the transition of this coal plant. And then you made a commitment last year with SD7 to environmental justice. But if you're going to delay this, that goes against that. You have a clear issue with environmental racism and classism because the North Omaha community economically isn't as affluent as other parts of the city. And it has been historically and predominantly a minority community. And that to me speaks to why this is happening and why it's happened across the country, because communities like North Omaha are always trampled over by boards like this that don't have faces of people that are disproportionately affected. Black kids are twice more likely to have asthma and respiratory issues. And where have they traditionally lived? North Omaha. It and then you talk about respectful engagement. You haven't respected the community. You haven't respectfully engaged with the community. As stated prior, you made commitments in 2022 to doing all types of things which you have not lived up to. So that's not true. Reflect community priorities. The community priority is to get this coal plant closed by the end of 2026. Your recommendation doesn't reflect that. Then this disingenuous report that you put out that has no historical context about the issues that many people just spoke to, and the issue that Annette just spoke to about the historical impacts of this coal plant on our community. You should be keeping your promise. You others were elected. You made the commitment to keep this promise. It is honestly very disrespectful that you're swaying on whether or not to keep your promise. You should be standing up here saying, staff, sit down. We're keeping our promise, and we're going to fight the attorney general. We're going to fight the governor, and we're going to fight the Trump administration
seconds.
because we believe in environmental justice. If you don't keep this promise, that shows that you're not an ally, that you don't care about our community, and you'll do anything that keeps the dollar in somebody's pocket. It's very frustrating, and the community will show up again, and we will be here in December, and this room will probably be filled, and we're going to see if you're going to keep to your promise. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment.
My name is Nancy Garter. I live at 2720 Iowa Street. I'm the president of the Miller Park Minnelusa Neighborhood Association, and I'd like to first address our relationship as an association with the utility, and then turn my comments, make them more personal. For those who don't know, our neighborhood sits in the shadow of the coal plant. We are directly across the street from it. We pride ourselves in being one of Omaha's most active and successful neighborhoods. OPPD has been a partner of ours. Your tree trimming has helped address security issues at Minnelusa Elementary School. Your volunteers have aided in dirt work that has made our boulevard safer. And your Greener Together grant is bringing bus shelters to North 30th Street for the first time in decades. We're very grateful for that because it will restore dignity and shelter to those using public transit. We do appreciate you. I'd like to, our neighborhood association doesn't take positions on controversial issues. So I'm going to turn the rest of my remarks will be my own personal ones. It is well established that coal plants, no matter the emissions reductions, are unhealthy. No study, no snapshot by EPRI will change that reality. Yes, OPPD has undertaken significant reductions in emissions, but there are still emissions and no equipment or mechanical process is perfect. I don't know if you've got that picture and you can put it up. I live 3 blocks from the plant. And in the winter of 2019, which was particularly cold, we had ash or whatever, particulates scattered throughout our neighborhood. I think you can, oh, is that how you do it? Thanks a lot. Thank you. So this is the snow outside my yard. I went out to do some work and you can see where I walked that it's white. And then of course, everywhere else there's ash or some kind of particulate. 2019 was the year we had such a brutal cold winter that it set the stage for the catastrophic flooding that occurred in eastern Nebraska that spring. This kind of particulate was seen throughout our neighborhood. And again, in very cold weather, equipment that handles the emissions and coal can freeze up. Beyond that, I'd like to talk about some of the proposal that you have to continue burning coal.
30 seconds.
Okay. We respectfully request that you provide the financial data that is compelling you to say that there is a significantly additional revenue to be made from burning coal. We ask that you give the 2 new gas plants a chance to burn for a winter so that you can have real life experience knowing how reliable their wintertime capacity is. And we ask that you give the integrated resource plan that you'll be doing next year time to mature and inform your decision. We believe that making this decision now before you've seen the generation of the 2 coal gas plants, before you've had your integrated resource plan, and before we've been able to see the financial data, we feel it'll be a little bit premature. And anyway, that's what we request. Thank you. Appreciate your
Thank you
time.
for your comments.
My name is Bonnie Mercer, and I live at 510 South 58th Street, 68106. At the November committee meeting on Tuesday, OPPD staff had a slide stating that there has been a, quote, 3 times increase in low voltage warning alarms since 2021. If these alarms have been happening for almost 5 years at this point, why is this becoming such a big issue now? OPPD management has had nearly half a decade to address these issues, and it seems like rather a convenient timing to bring them up now that we're reaching a turning point at the North Omaha station. Perhaps another diversion from promises made and not seemingly being kept. I would like the board and staff to consider the following questions. First, if these low voltage issues are happening while the North Omaha station is on and functioning, how does an extension remedy that situation? Second, what other options are available to address the issue, and how are you planning on implementing them? Continuing to burn coal seems like doing the same thing that you've been doing and hoping for different results. Third, why has this problem not been brought up previously? If you have known about this issue, what have you been doing since 2021 to resolve it? If you didn't know about it, then how did such a serious issue escape OPPD's notice for nearly 5 years? Fourth and finally, even if OPPD staff only learned about this low voltage issue in the past year, what have you been doing to address this localized issue, knowing that at the time you were still under a directive from the board to close the North Omaha station by the end of 2026? Many of us would really appreciate transparent answers to these questions. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Ryan Wishart, 912 North 49th Street, Omaha, Nebraska. So there's been already some discussion of keeping promises. One question I had after observing the Tuesday committee meeting was whether instead of telling customer owners who elected board members for a healthier environment that they have to wait even longer for cleaner air, why can't the utility tell some of the richest corporations in the world they're going to have to wait a little longer than they were promised to power on or expand their data centers? Granted, contracts are a different kind of promise than a board resolution, but both are promises, and if the utility is considering breaking one but not the other due to new reliability requirements that failed to be anticipated, we should discuss why. The only options I heard discussed Tuesday were asking people either to pay higher rates or pay with their environment. Is this so that the industrial customers that are the vast majority of new growth don't have to wait longer or pay to meet these new reliability requirements? Regarding some of the points that have already been made about the previewed health study and the difference between risk thresholds and impacts, one of the things we teach in environmental sociology is that natural science can tell us about what impacts or environmental risks are, but there's inevitably political and social decisions about what extent of risk or what extent of impacts are acceptable. Thresholds blend those two together. Although picking 2019 as a peak emissions year found that the impacts were below the non-peer-reviewed threshold industry study for an unknown population on Tuesday, we do have peer-reviewed research published by Henneman et al. In 2023 in Science, which is one of the two most prestigious scientific journals in the world, that found specifically North Omaha Station was responsible for approximately 10 deaths of Medicare patients in 2020 through sulfur dioxide emissions alone. If you look at the entire study stretching between 1999 and 2020, it's approximately 600 deaths attributable to North Omaha Station. Furthermore, their study also found that coal power plants particulates are twice as deadly as other sources of PM.25 for reasons that may not be entirely clear, but we know that if this is true, this is something that other models do not account for. What levels of impacts are acceptable is a political decision resting with the board. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment.
Hi, my name is Nate Ostick, 9380 Western Avenue, 68114. And I'm running for legislature. So I've had the opportunity to go around and talk to hundreds of neighbors and people throughout Omaha. And let me tell you, people are not happy. It feels like right now, with our state giving out tens of millions of dollars, if not more, and mind you, we don't get actual transparency on how much tax credits are being given out every year to these data centers and these mega corporations, Meta and the like. But the fact that they're coming here and we're seeing rates going up for everybody. So everybody's paying more. But at the same time, people are still getting sick. There's still the coal plant in North Omaha. It's still causing asthma. It's still spewing this dirty air everywhere. And it really feels like we're getting the worst of both worlds, what's coming out of this. Because what we're seeing is really a government that's been choosing to prioritize corporations, prioritizing Meta and the rest over the actual constituents, over the actual people that it's here and supposed to serve, over the promises that have been made to communities. And that's just not acceptable. We deserve better across the board from really all levels. We deserve people that are going to prioritize the health of, constituents and ordinary people over the bottom line of, Meta or the, stock portfolios of various interest groups. And I just think that being in a state right now where, just giving out all this money to, Meta, having everybody's rates go up in order to accommodate what they want is really depriving the people of Nebraska of what we need. And I just wanted to really leave it at that. I've been really frustrated just by hearing all this. I think a lot of people share that frustration, not just in this room, but I can speak to it across the city. And that's something that I think we really got to get our acts together to be able to talk about and to focus on, because people are hurting, prices are going up everywhere. You know, health, like life expectancy right now in the United States is dropping for the first time just about ever. And the fact that we're even, you know, considering, hey, let's maybe keep this coal plant open, I think is just a travesty. And we really got to get our act together and do the right thing. So thank you for listening.
Thank you for your comment.
Good evening. My name is Samantha Gentry. I'm at 7418 Joseph Avenue, La Vista, Nebraska, 68128. And I would just like to make a comment publicly that I oppose keeping the coal plant open. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment.
Good evening. Scott Williams. I live on Rosewood Drive in Lincoln, so I will be speaking to LAS tomorrow morning. But I work at 11111 E Circle here in Omaha, so I'm here to speak to you tonight. I didn't write anything tonight because I didn't know if I would stand up. But I guess I want to say thank you. If the 3+ hours of presentation and dialogue are any indication of the amount of work that had to go into the challenging issue in front of us, I know that everyone here in the room, watching online and across the community understands how difficult it is to continue to run a grid reliably, cost effectively, with environmental sensitivity to make sure that the lights are on when we flip the switch. So thank you for the work and the effort that the board, the executive leadership, and the staff put into making that a reality every single day. And I want to say thank you to the people who came here tonight to offer their comments. Colleagues, community members, neighbors, friends who are here to speak their truth about how this impacts their lives. You've heard from people who live in the North Omaha neighborhoods in Florence. That's not my truth, so I'll speak to what it is that I do and what I live every day. I parked on the street and took off the polo that has the name of my company on it because I don't speak for them, but I do work every day in the distributed energy industry. And I guess the main thing that I would like to highlight is that there are options to keep your promise. We can deploy distributed energy resources to keep the lights on and to keep our bills cost effective while still keeping our promise to the community members of North Omaha. Let me give you a numerical example. 10,000 deployed residential batteries across the approximately 350,000 customers, meters, accounts that you have, would account for 100 megawatts of distributed capacity. But it's not centrally located and it's not transmission interconnected. It is distribution grid connected. It is across the whole of the grid. It provides voltage support at the place where and when it is needed. 10,000 residential batteries, by the way, is about 3%
30 seconds.
uptake rate. So this is absolutely an achievable thing that we can do. OPPD is our energy partner, and we would like to be your energy partners. Our homes, our roofs, our EVs are distributed energy resources that can be brought to bear to help keep the lights on, keep the bills low, keep the grid reliable, and to keep your promise to the community members of North Omaha. I want you to know that you continue to have my support in helping to work together to keep those promises. Thanks.
Thank you for your comment.
Good evening. I'm Linda Jensen, 3716 Mason Street, representing myself. Again, I didn't plan to speak tonight, but as I hear all of the comments, I felt compelled to kind of give an overview. I found it interesting that we've had people here from high school students up to elderly as myself, and high school kids saying they've done their research and they're telling you what it's like to have acid burns in lungs. And other people have supported that testimony that that is happening when water, and I don't know, it's all beyond me, but I'm sure you guys either know it or you should. Okay, so I'm assuming you do. There was a lot of talk about promises made and broken promises being equal to justice delayed is denied. Many comments about asthma, illness, death from these things, and lots of statistics to support those statements. And I think we all know that North Omaha has had more than their share of maltreatment in so many ways over the years, from a movie made here in our own town named Divisible about the redlining and how we herded the Black community to North Omaha and then used regulations to keep them there and unable to buy homes. Thank you. I know that you're appreciating that. My view at a 10,000 foot level is that this is reflective of the same problem that's going on throughout our whole country and our democracy. And that is that we're looking at making the poorest and hardest struggling among us take another hit. So the wealthiest companies owned by the billionaires, specifically Mark Zuckerberg, can be kept in business and not delayed, not troubled. They can go on and do their business at the expense of the North Omaha community. That seems very unfair to me.
30 seconds.
I stand with my North Omaha neighbors. They are not disposable. They should never be disposable. I ask you to take care of them. I don't really care what it costs. Mark Zuckerberg's got enough already.
Thank you for your comment.
I'm Kate Carlson. I really had no intention of talking tonight, but the time that I've been here, it's moved me to feel compelled to say something because I don't know how many of you have lung issues, but I can tell you I have had lung issues my whole life, and it's gotten worse as I've gotten older. Today's my birthday, and I want to have a lot more birthdays, and I don't want to be spending them in the hospital. I have run up hospital bills because of my bronchial issues. I have asthma. Walking through an airport can get me into an asthma attack. And I really empathize with the people that live in North Omaha. I live in Papillion. Sorry, I didn't mention that. I'm in Papillion. I can't imagine if I had to breathe that every day. I can be in a vehicle and I can smell if somebody in a car ahead of me has a cigarette. That's how sensitive my lungs are. And I know a lot of other people have those same types of issues. I, just like many of the other people, I'm really tired of these corporations that think they can do whatever they want at the expense of all the rest of us. And I don't know, I'm kind of at this point wishing that Elon Musk and the rest of them would just go to the moon or go to Mars, wherever they want to go, and leave the earth alone, leave America alone. I know there's a lot of other countries that they do so much better on air quality, water quality, and it just amazes me. This is supposed to be the good life here in Nebraska, and I feel like the corporations and a lot of the politicians really don't care. So long as they have their bottom line taken care of and they get their tax breaks, that's all that matters to them. And I know I'm getting a little loud, but I get really passionate. I'm really upset about this, and I think all of you should be too. So I guess that's all I need to say. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Is there anyone else in the room who would like to speak? Seeing no one, let's move to people online. Do any members of the public joining via WebEx have comments on other items of district business? So please send a chat to the meeting host or use the hand raise feature in WebEx. Telephone users can press *3 to raise their hand.
Ken Winston?
Mr. Winston, can you hear us?
I'm asking to unmute. Can you hear me?
We can hear you. Go right ahead.
Thank you. Well, good evening. My name is Ken Winston. I'm appearing on behalf of the Nebraska chapter of the Sierra Club. My address is in Lincoln, Nebraska. However, I lived in Omaha for 14 years. I was heavily involved in the advocacy that led to the original decision to retire the North Omaha coal plant in 2014. Also, the Sierra Club has more than 5,000 members and supporters in the OPPD service territory. On a personal level, my son and his fiance just moved to Omaha, but are considering moving to Lincoln. If the OPPD board decides to continue to burn coal at the North Omaha plant, that will play a role in their decision. I'd like to respond to some of the materials that were presented at the committee meeting on Tuesday. There was a bit of discussion about the fact that we're having more extreme weather events. Those extreme weather events are driven by climate change. The rapid increase in climate change, in turn, is largely caused by greenhouse gas emissions. The costs of the impacts of climate change should also be considered in the process of evaluating the costs of continuing to burn coal in North Omaha. There was considerable discussion about reliability during the committee meeting. There was no information presented about demand side management, distributed generation, or battery storage during that committee meeting. There was information presented which indicated that the North Omaha community is the most vulnerable to the reliability issues. OPPD's own data also indicates that the North Omaha community also has the highest percentage of customers with high energy burden. Based on that information, the better choice would be for OPPD to invest in demand side management, distributed generation, and battery storage in that community. This would reduce customer electric bills, create jobs, and reduce emissions while making the grid much more reliable than continuing to burn coal in North Omaha. As was noted during that meeting and earlier today, North Omaha Station has been offline several times during times of great need for electrical service. At the committee meeting, there was discussion about the difficulties in obtaining and siting utility scale renewable energy. I am well aware of such difficulties. I'm also well aware of a 250 megawatt solar plus 70 megawatt battery storage project in Northeast Lancaster County, which has all the necessary approvals and is just waiting for a buyer. A project like this would help cover OPPD's resource needs. In Warren Buffett's recent letter to his shareholders, he stressed there's something special about Omaha as a major factor in determining why Berkshire Hathaway has kept its headquarters in Omaha all these years. One of the special things about Omaha is that Omahans keep their promises. We ask that OPPD honor the decisions that were made repeatedly over the last 11 years and retire the North Omaha Station. Please keep your promises. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment.
No other online comments.
Directors? Well, we have then reached the end of our agenda. So I pronounce this meeting adjourned at 6:49. Yes. Thank you. Safe travels to everyone.